ASUS G16 and 14 are some of the best gaming laptops on the market, but what if they have one feature that you really want? A touchscreen. Well, that's what we've got here today. This right here is the ASUS ProArt P16, and it is basically the G16, but in professional makeup. Let's have a look. And this video is sponsored by AMD. How much power is AMD going to get to consume? Well, apparently 200 watts according to this power adapter, which is powered with ASUS's proprietary rectangle connector thing. It's like USB Type-C, but more efficient and less convenient. Let's see, does this tell me to plug it in and turn it on? Yep, there we go. Plug it in, press the power button. Hell yeah. Where your story begins. Not a single thing happened until you got an ASUS laptop. Well, my first impressions are this is one slab of laptop right here. There's not a whole lot going on design-wise on the back. I guess coming from the G16, that might be kind of nice if you don't want like a great big LED animated display back here. It does really like fingerprints. The P16 comes in at 4 pounds or 1.8 kilograms. That is pretty darn good given the power that I know this thing has inside of it. Also, the I/O is very solid. Headphone microphone combo jack, USB Type A, USB 4, HDMI 2.1, and on the other side, full-size SD card reader. I love to see that. So many others are going to the small ones. This is fantastic if you're doing stuff like photo shoots and you want to be able to just quickly throw your SD card reader in there. And of course, another USB Type A. Around the back, there is only exhaust. Actually, looking at the specs, it's only 17.3 millimeters thick, which is pretty darn good. Normally you expect something to be more around 20, not that 2.5 millimeters is really gonna change your day. All right, opening it up here, it is very similar to the G16, which does share the same chassis. I need to move this off of the mat here. But this is one hell of a stiff chassis. Like, I am properly sending it here, and like, I can't quite tell when it's the laptop moving and when it's the table underneath it. They're pretty similar in stiffness. Yeah, this keyboard is fantastic. It doesn't get full marks. Like, I think that they could have a tiny bit more texture and tactility to the actuation of the keys, but yeah, it's pretty good. I'm gonna give this a solid A for the keyboard, and I think the trackpad might get an A+. Like, look at how much space they have used up with this thing. They literally could not have more of it here. Overall, the tracking on it is fantastic. I have not run out of space on it at all. And of course, we have this little thingy up in the top. So if you want to use it, you can swipe from the top right, just like that. You can now see that it's turned on. Using the dial here, you can see that I can just change the system brightness. Wow, this screen goes dark. Imagine this right here is Lightroom and we're changing the brightness of a photo or something like that. It's actually a really nice sort of analog way to adjust something like this. And also you can adjust if Copilot's on by hitting the button. Oh, that's pretty good. What I'm looking for right now is that we have an OLED panel with a touchscreen digitizer on the front of it. And I have seen a lot of panels in the past where the two won't quite line up because the touchscreen digitizer was made for an LCD panel. This right here does have a tiny bit of those artifacts. Like, you can kind of see it as a graininess, but I can only start seeing it about right here. And I would normally be using this computer right about here where it's not a problem at all. So it's not a problem at all. For the display, we've got what ASUS calls their Lumina OLED. So this is 16 by 10, 4K, and unfortunately it is just 60 Hertz, but because it's OLED, your response times will be lower. So it's not going to be brutal to use like a 60 Hertz LCD. Like, this is still pretty snappy and responsive, even if I can sort of see the pointer trails there, if you can see that on the monitor. It also has a max brightness of 500 nits, 100% coverage of DCI-P3, and comes color calibrated from the factory, so you can just trust that the colors that you see here are the colors that everyone else will see, assuming that their monitors are also color calibrated roughly. Of course though, the thing that we are looking for is this. Wow, touchscreen. Maybe you care about it, maybe you don't, but if you do, this is a pretty good laptop to be looking into. But of course, if you have a beautiful 4K display, that is no good if you don't have the power to back up the programs that you run on it. But Fortunately, we have that here with the AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX370. This thing has 12 cores, 24 threads, and goes up to 5.1 gigahertz with a 70-watt TDP for just the processor itself, which means this should be fairly rapid for professional programs. For memory, we have 32 gigabytes at 7,500 mega transfers per second, which means it's probably not able to be upgraded, but it is also very fast. We have a 1 terabyte SSD, MediaTek Wi-Fi 7, an NPU that is good for 50 tops of performance, and of course your GPU, which is an RTX 4060, which is good for many more tops of AI performance, if that's what you're looking for. My notes say that the 4070, which is optional, will go up to 321 tops. I'm not totally sure what the 4060 we have here is capable of. That said though, it definitely has 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Don't worry about the AI, it's 40% more efficient. That's the bit that really matters. Your battery life is way better with these processors. All right, let's try out some of the AI grunt of this with Muse Tree. This apparently allows you to generate AI images and become more creative. Either way, it's a bunch of image generation that is on your computer, so it doesn't have to send all your data and crap to the cloud, and you don't have to be spending money using generated tokens and crap. So create my Muse Tree. How to ruin the porta potty. Okay, so here we have several porta potties. That's not quite what we're looking for. Dog on porta potty. There we go. This is what all of your computational resources are for. We can burn the world down with AI, but at least we'll have strange looking dog outside a porta potty. Giant cat knocking down building. No. I wonder if it will be better with just out my help at all. There we go. That one's sort of something. We just spent so much time on that. All right, let's have a little game of Rocket League here. So we're looking at about around 100-ish FPS with this 4060. The responsiveness does seem like it's really quite good, and the colors of this display are fantastic. It is a bit of a letdown that it's only 60 Hertz, but at the same time, I am currently getting like 120 FPS, well screen recording, and this is a pretty decent time, especially for a laptop whose intent is not really gaming. It's supposed to be a creator first laptop. In here we do have ASUS's Ice Cool Pro thermal technology, which gets us up to 120 watts of combined system power, which is pretty impressive given the size of this thing. You were just able to hear the fans on during Rocket League, and even though when you lift it up it's kind of loud, against the table it's pretty silent. And this does also have liquid metal inside of it. These speakers don't kick ass, I'm gonna be mad. Okay, sounds decent. Oh yeah, there we go. You've got the bass, the treble's clear. It's not just distorting all to hell, and you can tell by the fact that I'm kind of yelling right now that it's plenty loud. Good job, ASUS. They have a webcam turn-off switch right here. I do really like to see that. And this webcam also looks pretty darn good. I'm not getting any super strange colors on my face that I can tell. It's struggling a tiny bit here when I point it directly at a bright studio light, but it's still mostly exposing for my face. If I turn around here, it still is exposing for my face really quite well. It's not blowing out, even though this side is way darker than this side, so whatever image processing they're using is pretty darn good. And of course, it also has Windows Hello facial recognition up top and a fingerprint reader in the power button right here, which is my favorite combo for getting in because no matter what you're doing, you can probably get in through one of those ways. All right, 11 T6 screws later, 2 of which were underneath rubber feet, and we are in. Do make sure if you take this apart that you organize where all of your screws go because they are different lengths. Keep it organized, like with our little magnetic spots, with our precision screwdriver set from lttstore.com. In here, things are looking pretty good. Down below, we have a 90 watt hour battery, which in our testing was able to get 8 hours and 5 minutes in our endurance test, which is pretty good, but not exceptional, but also really quite good given that this has an OLED display and those can really use a lot of power. I am sure that is aided by the AMD processor. In here for upgradability, on the right we have our one SSD, and on the left right here you can put a second one. Will a double-sided SSD go in? Yep, double-sided SSD, all good. In here we can also see ASUS's thermal design, which is pretty interesting. We have 4 heat pipes, none of which are particularly large, but we also have 3 fans. This one down here is good for just cooling down stuff like your VRMs, your SSDs, pulling in air across everything, and it is sectioned off via a little bit of foam from your main fans, which are primarily just gonna be shooting air out of those heat sinks back there. Now before pricing, AMD is doing a giveaway down below, so you can get one of these for free, which would be very awesome. This one that we have right here with 32 gigabytes of RAM and a 4060 is a Canada only model that comes in at $2,600 Canadian, or about $1,870 US, which is not too bad of a deal. But strangely in the US, you need to go much more expensive and much more computer. The US config starts with 64 gigabytes of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage, and a 4070 for $2,700. That's a lot of money, but that's also a lot of computer. So yeah, if you're in the US, maybe drive up here to get a cheap laptop. The people are nice, so it'll be worth it. Just like AMD was really nice to sponsor this video. Check out the links down in the description, enter that giveaway, and have a great old day. Hit like, get subscribed, and I'll see you later.